Okay, everybody, I believe that I am live. And so if you are on the live webinar page, if you could just confirm that you could hear me, that would be awesome. Can anyone hear me? I'm going to ask it on the chat here and see if anyone responds. Make sure we're live before I dive in. There's always a delay in the beginning with this, so I just want to make sure it's working. Hello, Peggy. Okay, someone said, yes, we can hear you. Somebody else said, no, I can't hear you. Okay, maybe a non 3394. Turn up your volume. Okay, looks like I'm getting a number of confirmations that you all can hear me. So I'm going to dive in and we'll cover what we're going to cover today. First of all, thanks to everybody for being here. I think it's great that you're all showing up. You just keep, yeah, Dan says you need to refresh the page first in order to hear. So that might be a good point. Go ahead and refresh your page. And the video is live now, so you should be good. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to dive in. What I'm going to be talking about today is something that I call website mistake number 3, and it is awful. That's why my subject line is really kind of dramatic, okay? Because your thinking most likely about this is stopping you from taking action. And if you do this, this is going to be the most wonderful thing that's ever happened to your practice, okay? So that's what I'm talking about today. And as usual, I need to give you a heads up that my home office mate Tanner may let himself be known here. So just always want to give you the heads up on that. Somehow he's not done that for the last 2 months. So we'll see if he does it today, but you're forewarned in any case. Okay, so the purpose of what I'm going to be talking about today, again, is purely educational as always. Not as always, I guess. Sometimes I'm actually promoting a program or something, but this is the third in a string of purely educational webinars. So nothing's being sold. I basically want to give you a really good picture of what is going to work for you, okay, in terms of website strategy. Now, you can ask questions. For those of you who haven't been on before, there is a chat box to the right of the video that you're watching, the live stream, and you can type in questions. People are already typing in now, so that's great. I see one issue here where somebody is saying they can't hear me, and so I'm going to tell them to hit the play button on the video, and then they'll probably hear. So hopefully that will work. Okay, so anyway, what I want to do is make sure that you can hear and that you're continuing on. So it seems like maybe we're having a few problems this morning. Somebody can't hear. They could at first, but now it's gone silent. So I'm not really sure. Well, I guess I'm just going to keep going, and I'm going to assume that you guys can hear me and that it's working, because it seems like a couple of people are having audio problems with their video. Okay, so go ahead. Oh, good, Christopher, you got it. Okay, great. Okay, so go ahead and type in so that you can type into the chat. Just say hi. Go ahead and say where you're from. You can be anonymous or you can have a name. Either way is fine. If you want to be anonymous, that's fine. No problem. And so we're just going to have that be active. And what I want you to do is, as it comes up, as a question comes up for you, go ahead and type it into the chat box. So if you do that, you're going to make sure that you get your questions asked, and they will get answered. I stay on and answer everything. So if you delay, then you may not remember what you were going to ask, and you may not ask. So feel free to type it in as it comes up for you. All right, so who is this for today? This is for any therapist who has had a website up for years. It hasn't been bringing you clients. And I added a little another part to this is some of you have had websites up for years and you just want more clients from your website, okay? Some of you have websites that are working halfway decently, all right? So this is still for you because especially this session is going to show you how to really rock it, okay? It's really going to change it. And the other set of people that will really benefit from this. Now, this is really kind of funny. If you've never had a site up, but you want to do it the right way first, this is for you. I say that's funny because actually that's not usually who I end up helping. I usually end up helping people who have been in practice for several years. They're totally confident with their ability to be a good therapist, and they've been banging their head on the wall for years and years about not getting online leads. So that's not typically my client, but you know, you could be. You could be somebody who doesn't have to bang your head on the wall for years. Okay, so this could be for you. And if you want to build a practice in a predictable, sustainable way without working so darn hard, regardless of how long you've been in practice, this is definitely for you. Now, I want to just go ahead and say that I have that in bold and bright orange because that is the main point that we're going to be talking about today. Sustainability, predictability, that's what website mistake 3 prevents you from doing, and we're going to get into that in a minute. So that's why that's bolded. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick review. We've had 2 webinars prior to this one. I'm not going to go through everything we went through because I'll show you where you can listen to those if you are new and you have not heard those already. So the 3 steps that we're talking about in order to get a really smart therapist website is, number 1, get the attention of your visitors, okay? Get their attention, and we'll talk through that a little bit. Provide more value is the second step, okay? So they come, you've got them captivated, now provide more value to them. And the third step, and that's really the focus of today, is to keep in touch. Keep in touch. This is so important. I promote getting there in steps because, especially if you're doing it by yourself, it can be very overwhelming to look at what needs to be done to have a smart, strategic site. And if you're trying to do it all at once, you're going to look at it all and say, oh gosh, that's way too much. I can't do it. So I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, which isn't doing you what you want it to do. So 3-step approach is what I promote basically for folks who are doing it yourself. If you have help in doing it, then you can do it faster. And we'll talk about that. This is a great way to build a good foundation. There's all sorts of things that you can do to improve your online marketing. I mean, you could do pay-per-click, you could do advertising in other places, you can promote yourself doing webinars or teleseminars. There's, speaking engagements. There's so many things that you can do, but you can't do any of those things unless you have a solid foundation. So that is the whole point. That's what we're trying to put in place here, and that's why we're putting this roadmap together. Okay, so the first thing is to get their attention, and if you missed the first webinar in this series, you can find that at counselingwise.com/website-1. Okay, counselingwise.com/website-1. That is a webinar very similar today, but it goes over step 1, and I am going to cover some of what we talked about for a review anyway, but I just wanted you to know now where you can get that webinar. Webinar 2 was about providing more value, and you can find that at counselingwise.com/website-2. You see a pattern there, I'm sure. So anyway, you can find it there, and we will review a little bit here today just so that it all makes sense and pulls together, but I want you to know where you can find that. So today, as I mentioned, is the keep in touch piece. That's what we're really going to be focusing on. But first, let's do a little bit of a review. So step 1, we talked about having a site that sets you apart from the masses. And what we want to have happen is we want somebody to come to your website, and instead of your website looking like 90% of the other therapist websites out there that are blah, 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 boring, boring, boring. I've been in practice for 25 years. I know a lot. I studied here, I studied there, I do all these fancy things. Nobody wants to read that. So basically, we're going to do something different, and we're going to really grab the attention of your potential clients so that they don't do what is called a bounce. A bounce is where they bounce away from your website. They come for 1 to 3 seconds and they're gone. And a lot of therapists have very high bounce rates because they don't know how to market. So step number 1 is really grabbing attention. Step number 2 is, now that you've got their attention, what if you actually provide them even more value so that they stay on your website longer? Okay, the longer they stay, the better results you're going to get. They're going to be more impressed. They're going to bond with you, perhaps. They're going to find you much more credible. Obviously, if they don't see any of those things, they're leaving. And if they do see them, they're staying. So here's the deal. That's what you need to do. Now, step number 3 is this. Now that you've got their attention and you've provided value to them in keeping them there longer, what I want you to do, and please don't say you can't do this. I'm hoping after today you will really see how easy this is. I want you to create a way to keep in touch with them, and I will show you why that is crucially important. Until they're ready to come in, keep in touch with them. Okay, now we're going to get into that. In step 1, I'm going to do a quick review here. Basically what we did was we looked at 2 different psychologists' sites, okay? And there was one site, of course, that I know. He's a client of mine. His site is well done. It's not perfect. It's certainly not perfect, but it's performing very well. And it has all the right marketing components to it. And he is a relationship counselor. So what I did was I said, okay, I'm going to just try to compare so that people really get this picture and they really understand. So I went to Psychology Today. I went to a major city. I chose somebody who works with relationship issues. I just grabbed the first person and I found that website. Now, this is a lot going on this page, but the website that I found, which is a typical therapist site, is the one on the left. And Dr. Brian Gershow's site, therelationshipdoc.org, is the one on the right. You may like the design, you may not like the design. That's okay. There's all sorts of designs and tastes out there. The point is that this website works because it's doing certain things. The site on the left, the psychologist shall remain unnamed. We're not interested in embarrassing anyone. That's not the point here. But the point is that it's typical of what we see. Okay, so what we did in the first webinar was we said, okay, let's put yourself in the place of someone looking for a therapist who can help you with relationship issues. And we went through this website in detail, looking at everything that there was. And basically, we ended up doing a little report card. And so we had these questions. Does this website let the site visitor know within 1 to 2 seconds of their arrival that they are in the right place for good information about, in this case, relationship issues? No, this site did not do it. The next question is, did it give them a very clear path to follow to find out how you as the therapist could help them? No, it didn't do that either. And the third question, did it talk to them about their specific issues so that they can basically feel themselves on your page? What you're talking about is just a mirror of what they're going through. No, it didn't do that at all. Okay, and the last question is, tell them what to do next. Did it tell them what to do next? What the call to action is? It kind of gave them a call to action, but not, not that great. Okay, so then we did the same thing with the relationship doc, and we went through that same set of questions, and we basically got yes, 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 yes. Okay. The site visitor knows within 1 to 2 seconds that this site is definitely about relationship work, okay? It gave them a clear path on what to follow, and in this case, he has specific paths for people in a couple or a couple who's looking to do work together, a single person in relationship who's needing help because their partner won't come to therapy, and then singles who are just looking for healthy relationships. So it talks to them about the path to take, and once they get there, there's really good information for them. There's information for them to stay longer, all of that. So it passed with flying colors. So again, if you want to see all the detail of that, go ahead and watch that first webinar, Counseling Wise / website number one, website one, I mean. And also, in that webinar, you'll see that there's something else shared. There is another free coaching call that I did on how to write a captivating marketing message, how to get that first page of your site to really grab their attention. And you can get that at counseling-wise.com/3-times. Okay, 3-times. So let's go on to, we've covered step one, we've reviewed that. Let's go to step two. So again, step two was we looked at the same two sites, both of them working with relationship issues, and we talked about this step two value of delivering value, okay? Delivering value. And the point is this, we also talked about something called a conversion rate, okay? And there is something on online marketing, any kind of marketing actually, where you have a conversion rate. The conversion rate is basically how many people that come and see your message do what you want them to do. So in this case, let's say you had 200 visitors to your site and you get 2 calls or 2 contacts through your contact form, or even 2 clients. That would mean that you have a 1% conversion rate, 2 out of 100 converted. Okay, so conversion rate, when you hear people talk about that, is it can apply to anything that you want them to do, any action you want them to take. It's not only getting a client. It could be calling you or filling out a form or something like that. It could even be signing up to your email list. We'll talk about that today. But that's what a conversion rate is. And what we know is that there's a much higher conversion rate for people who provide more value on their websites, people who have more pages and they have really good, typically blog posts is how you get those pages on there. The conversion rate is much higher if you have good value for your visitors. Now here's an example that I talked through. I have 2 clients. These are fictitious names I've given them. Susan is a psychologist. She has 81 visits a month. Not very many people to her website at all. However, people stay on her site for a long time. Okay, they stay for almost 3 pages worth of reading. That is a long time online, and over 3 minutes. With 81 visitors, she got 4 phone calls last month. James, on the other hand, has tons of traffic. Okay, he has like 15 times the traffic as Susan, and he has a bunch of unique visitors. People don't stay on his site though because it is not easily navigable. He doesn't have really clear messaging, and he's not providing a lot of good value for them to sink their teeth into that's easily findable. Okay, so he only got 3 phone calls in the last month with 15 times the traffic as Susan. So this gives you an idea of how value in the form of, you know, valuable educational information you're providing helps you with conversion rate. Okay, so this is the moral of the story. Now, what we do, what I say, I'm just kind of going through this quickly because this is just a review. What I use in terms of really getting valuable content on a website so that your user stays there and they view a lot of pages is a blog. Okay. So again, the value is good, relevant content. They stay longer. They form a stronger impression. They bond with you. How do we do that? We do that with a blog. Okay. Now, the reason we use a blog, you know, don't think about blog posts as the old blog posts when they first started with somebody talking about, oh, I went to the store today and I bought this really cool purse and whatever. Who cares about that, right? That's not what a blog structure is for from a business perspective. A blog structure simply allows you to provide very good content to your visitors in a format, in a structure that they can find. All right, and so that's what blogs allow you to do. If you want to watch that webinar, you will find out a lot more about how that comes together and how you can really make it easy for people to find and navigate and kind of go down your rabbit trail there on your website. All right. Now, the benefit of this for a potential client is if they read something that's good, they stay, and read it, so they stay longer. They're getting educated. They also begin to think, wow, this therapist could really help me. And they think this other benefit is, wow, if you have an article on this, then maybe I'm not the only one who has this problem. If you're writing this knowledgeably about this issue, okay, cool. I'm not the only one who has this problem. We talked also about search engines and what the benefit is from a search engine viewpoint and when you have good blog posts. And the search engines basically say, well, this is interesting. We put this website up there. People are going to this website, and they're staying a long time. That must be a really good result for us to rank highly. And that's what Google or any of the search engines are all about, right? If they deliver garbage to you and you bounce off those sites and you don't like what you're finding, they haven't been doing their job. If you type in something and you go to a website and you end up staying there and reading a lot, that is a big signal to them that your site should remain ranked highly, okay? Because you're captivating people, they're staying there, they must be having a good online experience. So that's what that's all about. Now, a side note, I did not even mention this last time, and I want to mention this time. I have been doing some analysis. We're basically changing up our blog approach to doing longer posts. So I've been analyzing quite a few of our clients, our therapist clients' websites. And the one thing I did not mention, I talked about it helps you with ranking. I talked about it helps user engagement to have a blog. But this is significant. So if any of you are questioning a blog, listen to this. I have a client, a psychologist, in a smaller town in California. He has 560 visitors to his site. Now, my guess is that there's a lot of you, if you're local on this call, local meaning you're a local therapist in your vicinity rather than a national therapist. I have several national clients as well. But that 560 visitors is pretty high compared to what you're getting, okay? Most therapists that I know get somewhere between, 100 to 200 visitors per month, 250 maybe, if they're not doing a whole lot, if they're not publishing very much, okay? So this guy is getting 560 visitors to his site. The interesting thing is that 380 of them, nearly 70%, came to his website directly via blog posts. Okay, that means they entered into his website not via the home page or the about page or the contact page or any of those standard pages. They came in because they typed in something and it led them to a blog post that was about that topic. Okay, so take this lesson to heart. Blog posts are not only about getting more pages on your site and having Google see you as a authority site. They're not only about providing more value and having your readers stay longer, but they're also about attracting more visitors. Very important point. Okay, so how do you go ahead and create these blog posts? We talked about that last time. Talked about looking at each of your specialties, and I believe we used ADHD as an example last time. Jot down frequently asked questions. Okay, if you've been working in that area, you already know what those questions are from people. ADHD, we talked about what causes it, is it treatable, do I have to be on medication, does talk therapy really help, all those kinds of questions, okay? So think of the standard questions and just, what are the what questions? What are the where? What are the when, why, how, whatever? And you'll come up with tons of topics for blog posts. All right, so that is the summary of step number 2. And now I'm going to go ahead and dive into step number 3, which is really the meat of what we're going to talk about today. And again, please go watch those other webinars so that it all comes together for you. I don't have time to go through all of it again. But step number 3, let's talk about this. Now that we've got their attention, because we have a captivating marketing message on our website, and we have provided value to them because we have blog posts that they can keep reading and learn more and more and see what an expert we are in what's troubling them. What we want to do next is we want to create a way to keep in touch with them until they're ready to come in. And I want to tell you two stories, okay, about this, just to give you an idea of how this works. The first story is about Molly Gordon. I don't know if anyone knows Molly Gordon. She has a company called AuthenticPromotion.com, Shaboom.com. I don't know how many, MollyGordon.com. That's her third website, I believe. But anyway, when I was in grad school, let's see, when did that start? 92. Is that true? I think so. I was in grad school and I joined her list. Okay, she had some pretty neat information about authentic marketing. I thought it was refreshing. I joined her email list. I don't know what she was luring me with, but I joined her list. However, that was at the beginning of grad school, and I was way too busy to think about doing anything at that point. So I got emails from Molly Gordon for 3 years while I was in grad school. Okay, and I would read them occasionally when I had time. Some interested in me, some didn't. 3 years, they kept coming. Well, when I graduated and I decided I needed to start my own practice, I began working with Molly. Okay, so the moral of the story is I got on her list. She kept showing up in my inbox, and her emails showed up for 3 years before I spent one penny with her. Okay, but this is how lists work. If she did not capture me the 3 years prior to me showing up and contacting her and wanting to work with her, if she hadn't captured my name and email, I would have long forgot about her. Okay, so she captured my name and email and basically had me just sitting there getting warmer and warmer and warmer over 3 years. And so that's the first story. The second story is my own story, and this is why I'm so emphatic about you all building lists. I worked with therapists in 2007 or 8, and 8 in that time period. That's when I first started working with therapists in terms of marketing. And I built a small list back then, about 350 folks. I then basically got distracted, went off and did other things, did a bunch of work for attorneys and for e-commerce companies and all sorts of different folks. And then I basically decided in 2012, last year, to focus exclusively on therapists. You guys are cool. I like you a lot better than attorneys. Surprise, surprise. But I decided to just come back and start counseling-wise and focus exclusively on on therapists. And that was in August of last year. Because I had this list that I had built, even though this poor list was old and neglected and whatever, I've been able to, in 1 year, basically double my business. Okay, so this is what a list gives you. It gives you momentum. It's an asset that you can use that no one can take from you. Google can change their algorithm. There's all sorts of things that can happen. But if you have built a list of people who have followed you and liked you, then it's going to propel you forward. That's all there is to it. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about the reality. Let's get closer to home for you. The reality of offering therapy to the world, that should say. Sorry, world. I have a little water on my brain. Okay, the reality is this. First of all, there's 3 snapshots I'm going to give you here. Sales of any type, okay, and this doesn't matter. I mean, you could be selling iPhones, you could be selling tires, furniture, or therapy, or accounting, or whatever, okay? The bottom line is the statistics have shown very clearly people do not bond with you on the first contact. The first time they hear of you, the first time they show up to your website, they do not bond with you. Only 2% of sales are made on the first contact. 3% are made on the second contact, 5% on the third, 10% on the fourth, but 80% of sales are made on the 5th through 12th contact. Okay? 5th through 12th contact. That is huge. Okay? Now, the second kind of dynamic that is going on in your world is just the stages of change model human beings go through, right? So you've all probably seen this. Anyone who's studied motivational interviewing certainly knows this inside and out. But, this has been studied ad nauseum. It started out in the addiction field, but it applies to anybody trying to make changes in their life, period. Okay? So there's a process people go through. It's not a straight line shot. It's not as if somebody says, oh, my relationship is troubled. I'm going to take care of that today, and I'm going to, find a good therapist and make an appointment today and get going on that. That's not how we work. Okay, we're in denial first that there's anything wrong. We're in this pre-contemplation stage. We don't care, right? We don't think there's anything wrong. We have no plans of doing anything. Then we move to contemplation, maybe. We start thinking, maybe something could be wrong. Eventually, we might get more determination and decide, okay, I think that something could actually help here. I could take action. We get determined to do it. And then maybe we take action. And then, of course, in the addiction model, probably any model, even relationship, right? We relapse, right? We go back to those bad patterns and styles of communicating. But hopefully we get to maintenance and we are in a better place in our lives. Okay, now you can exit and re-enter at any stage, and this is what we do with anything. So think of any issue that you've struggled with and think about how long it actually took you to take action, to actually do something. So this is part of what you are dealing with when you are attempting to, quote unquote, sell therapy services, which is what you are doing. And it's not easy, okay? So don't think that anyone who comes to my site, they should, I have 100 people a month coming to my site, they should be calling me. Well, they're not. Even if you have very good marketing message and you have really good information, they are going through this kind of stage of change independent of you and your ability to market well, okay? This is just reality. Now, this is my own chart. This is the journey to the therapist's office, a la Becky DeGrossa. And it starts with unease. Okay, there's some unease in their life, so they may start looking. One of the first milestones, go ahead and ignore the blue boxes for now. But one of the first milestones is they know you exist because they can find you online. Okay, that's one of the key milestones in this process for you as a therapist in online marketing. Now, there's gonna be other things that have to occur before they get into your waiting room. Okay, there's a whole bunch of things that have to occur, and those are largely based on how well you market. Okay, so liking you, they need to like you, they need to find you credible, they need to trust you, they need to be moved to contact you. Okay, all of those things have to happen before they will actually get into your waiting room, actually make an appointment with you. However, a key part in whether or not these things happen is if they even remember you. And this is what we're talking about with website mistake number 3. People do not even believe in creating lists, mailing lists. Some people don't believe in it. Or if they think theoretically it sounds good, they don't really take the action to do it because it sounds too hard. But the remembering you part has to be there for all this other stuff to happen. And think about the stages of change they're going through. They aren't going to take action right away, most likely. So if you want to not waste all the site visits that came to your site this month, capture their name and email, because the only way you can have them remember you is to take control of that and show up by providing content to them on a regular basis. So let's talk about what we really have to do to make this thing work. What you can control in this process. You can't control the stages of change. You can't control the statistics that most people don't buy upon the first exposure. You can't control this roaming, rambling path that they're going to take, and they could fall off that path at any point. You can get them back on the path by reminding them that you exist, but you can't control any of this stuff. So let's talk about what you can do. Here are 3 things that you can do. You can get to that magic number of 12 contacts if you capture their name and email. And remember, 80% of sales are made on the 5th through 12th contact. So you can control that if you capture their email. You can show up 12 times in their inbox. over a period of time. Obviously, you're not going to do that all in 1 month because they're going to unsubscribe and say, what a nag. You aren't going to do that, right? But you can get to 12 contacts. You can stay top of mind. You can become, in their mind, the relationship person to go to, the expert in town when I'm ready to take action. Okay? You can become the ADHD expert. You can become the whatever, any kind of expert, the depression expert, the anxiety expert, etc., etc. You can be that person if you just keep showing up. And number 3, you can show up again and again with value so that when your email shows up with their motivation high and that intersection is made, they actually do something. They take action. Okay? Now, let me make that really clear. As you know, their motivation is going to wane, wax and wane. It's going to be all over the place, right? And they're going to be focusing on it. They're going to be sweeping it under the carpet. Whatever the problem is, we're human and we take a really circuitous route into getting there, right? So what you have to do is you have to just keep showing up, and eventually at some point they're going to be in a place where they're like, okay, I'm sick of this, I'm ready to do something about it, this is just too much. Your email shows up, boom, that's what happens. That's basically what happened with the Molly Gordon story. I was finally ready. My motivation was finally there to actually implement some of the things she teaches, because now I needed to practice, right? I wasn't motivated before. I was in school. I didn't have any time. But there she showed up again. Ah, Molly, I'm going to call her. And that's how it works. All right, so how do you do this? Well, the first thing is you actually need to build a list. And there's a lot of folks I see, the folks who do have a newsletter list. A lot of folks just think you can put an opt-in box on your website that says, join our newsletter. You may get some opt-ins that way. However, you could double that easily by providing some kind of a lure, a free report, to gather emails and automatically build your list. So it's best to have one of these lures or free reports for each of your specialties, okay? Here's an example. If I have a client who has a relationship site, and she works with couples, and then she also works with people who are going through a divorce to help them do that better. Now, if I'm going through a divorce, I'm not interested in downloading a free report that's all about building intimacy in your relationship, right? That's the last thing I'm thinking about. But I would be very interested in downloading a free report about, the top 3 mistakes parents make when they're getting divorced. Something like that, how to take care of your children during your divorce. I would be very interested in that if that's my scenario. So this is just an example of why it's very important to have a special or a free report for each one of your focus areas. The other thing that you have to do after you provide this free report and you start building your list is you have to really stay in touch with them. Okay, a lot of people go through all the trouble to put the list up there, build the report, put the list up there, get the list growing, and then they never stay in touch with their list. So in essence, you haven't even started this process if you're not staying in touch with your list. So that's crucial. So let's talk about some examples of free reports. You've probably already seen the one on the left. This is the Relationship Doc. This is the Brian Gershow website. He has a free relationship satisfaction assessment. Now, you're going to notice that is what I call 2-dimensional report cover, as opposed to all the others on this page. And we're in fact changing this. He's getting some, decent steady stream of opt-ins on his site, but my guess is we can improve that by 50% just by making this a 3D report, okay? Meaning it looks like a booklet or something like that, okay? People tend to think they're getting more. They envision getting value if it's a 3D report. Who knows why, but studies have been done, and that's what they show, and so we're going to change his to a 3D report. Here's some other ones. This is for a group practice, a very large group practice. This one is for a grief therapist, and this one is for a postpartum depression specialist. Okay, so these are just examples of things that you can have, and they're not that big of a deal to put together. It may seem overwhelming at first, but it's not, especially if you have some guidance on how to do it. So how do you write that? You address a common concern that potential clients have within your specialty. Okay, you provide value in that. It doesn't really have to be much more than a decent blog post type article, but developed a little bit more fully, formatted nicely, can have a little bio about you in the back, and format it with a 3D cover. Put that 3D cover on your website. So that's how you do it. Here's some resources for you. I did a coaching call on this in May, and you can get that coaching call at counselingwise.com/free report, free-report. Okay, so go ahead and go there. On that page, there's not only the recording of the coaching call, but there's also instructions for you on how to get a cheap report cover made, a 3D report cover made via Fiverr for $5. And there's also instructions about how to format the inside in a really easy way. Okay. The other thing you can do is you can hire it out. We have a number of clients who just don't have time to put it together, or they hate writing, and so we create the free report for them. Our writers interview them and talk about what the topic is going to be and what the report will be about, and we just have really good writers, and they crank it out. They understand word crafting, wordsmithing better than most of us because they write day in and day out, and they can create that for you. So now let's talk about, okay, once you have this list built, how do you actually keep in touch? Well, here's the easiest way to do it. Okay, I don't even really like the word newsletter, because newsletter sounds like it's going to be something about, this week we hired 3 people in our corporation and whatever. Boring. Who cares? What you really want to think about in terms of these touch points is sending them something that is valuable. Something that's educational, informative, helpful. So if you are blogging, creating blog posts or articles or whatever you want to call them on your website, you can simply send them that. And sending 1 to 2 times per month is perfect, okay? I've talked to this already about segmenting your list. What I mean is the example I gave was if you work with couples, and then you work with people who are divorcing, you would have your list segmented into those 2 categories. And of course, you would send blog posts or articles to the couples seeking intimacy that are different than the ones who are looking to have a healthy divorce. Okay? So send only relevant information when you do send it. The problem with newsletters, again, is that it's general usually, and it doesn't apply to everyone who's receiving it. And so you will get more opt-outs, people unsubscribing from your list if you do not send relevant information to them. If you do, they will love you. They will look forward, actually, to your email showing up that have little tips about, couples intimacy or whatever. Something that applies to them. That's what they want. Now, the other thing that you can do is you could set up an email sequence that automatically goes out to them over a 2-month period with a preset series of emails. This is great. Let's say I'm thinking just on the fly here, but let's say that your specialty is ADHD and you have a whole list of frequently asked questions about that. You could actually create maybe, 7 or 8 blog posts or articles about those. You could even have them on your site. And then you could also have those go out as an email sequence once a week or something like that, or twice a month to people on your list. Okay? And so you just continue to show up. You talk about, can ADHD be treated outside of medication? You have an article on that. Does talk therapy help with ADHD? You have an article on that. Do people outgrow ADHD as they get older? You have an article on that. Okay? And you just keep showing up. This person is obviously troubled by the fact that they think they may have it, so just keep showing up and you become top of mind as the ADHD expert. So that's what that is all about. That saves you time. You don't have to worry about doing this every month if you have something like this going. Most people I know probably aren't going to put the work into creating this, and they're going to want to do like something on a monthly basis anyway. Okay, so let's talk about resources for this piece. I have a demo, a video demo on my website at counselingwise.com, newsletters, okay, /newsletters. And it's called How to Send a Monthly Newsletter in 5 Minutes or Less. And what I do in that demo is I actually shoot myself videotaping me putting together a newsletter based on blog posts on the site in, I think it's 4 minutes. All right, and that goes out to the list. So it doesn't have to be a big deal to send this out every month. It can be very simple if you have a system in place to support it. The other thing that you can do is that you can hire this out as well, okay? You know, you guys are busy. I know you're busy. I'm too busy to write my own blog posts, so I have my team writing them now. We have a new offering in which we write 2 expert blog posts for you. We haven't been able to figure out how to do this ethically and well prior to now, but what we're doing now is we're interviewing the therapist. So the writer calls the therapist, interviews them. They write 2 600-word blog posts for the therapist. Those go up on the website, and those are also going to go out in a newsletter or whatever you want to call it, email blast to the therapist's list. Okay, so if you're interested in something like that because you can't see how to make it all happen yourself, time-wise, or hating writing, then feel free to contact us and we can help you with that. So with step 3, I want to tell you about the results that you can anticipate because you may not believe me. So I want to really stress this. What you can expect is that people who came to your site, once you get your email list up and going and you're sending touch points out to these folks, you can expect that people who came to your website 6 months ago to suddenly become clients. Okay? You can fully expect that. And right now, if you're not building a list, you should not count on that at all because it's not going to happen. You know, once they're there and you're out of sight, you're out of mind. So this changes the game. You can start expecting that whatever you're doing now, if you're building a list, is going to pay off in 6 months. Okay? You can expect old clients to come back in more often. Okay? If they're still on your list and they're still getting valuable pieces of educational marketing in the form of articles, they are going to remember you. Even if they've been gone from therapy for 2 years, they're going to say, gosh, that's so right, and I'm struggling with that right now. I'm going to call, you know, whoever and make another appointment. Once your list has grown to several hundred, okay, which you could easily do over like a year and a half, something like that, you could expect, and the therapists that I talk to tell me this is so true, you can expect to get a few clients each time you send an email out to your list. Wouldn't that be cool, right? You have a couple of clients in, wouldn't it be great to send an email out and get a couple new clients, take their place, okay? The other great benefit is if you do group work or you do workshops, you can fill those much more easily if you have a list. You have an audience already, and maybe individual work isn't what they want to do. Maybe group work is more affordable, or it's time limited, or a workshop obviously is time limited. So you can fill those much more easily if you have a list. Now, here's the interesting thing. If this therapist who has this typical website that wasn't done very well had a captivating report on her homepage, and then she followed up and nurtured anyone who opted into her list, she could overcome her poor website strategy. Now, not completely, right? It would be better if she had implemented step 1 and if she implemented step 2. But if I came to this website and I'm in her town and I'm having relationship problems and this page is terrible, but she had a very captivating free report for me, then I could actually get on that list and not remember her about this website, you know, this poor website, but remember her because she continually shows up with valuable little tidbits about building intimacy in relationship or fighting fairly or resolving conflict or getting creative with a date night once a week or whatever. She could keep showing up, and pretty soon I'm going to be thinking, that person knows a lot and they could really help me. Okay, so with a good report and a good list management strategy. You can even overcome other stuff that you have going on. Okay, so that is that. And that is step 3, and I've covered all of it. And so here's what I want to tell you. You have the pieces, okay? You have the pieces. If you're a do-it-yourself person, take your time, okay? We talked about that. Implement one step at a time, do it really well, and then move to the next step. Take your time and get it done. If you want guidance or you want this to go faster, feel free to get in touch with me, okay? Feel free. You can. I always have a half-hour free consult, and that's available on my website, so you can get in touch with me and talk about something. If you are interested in doing this in 2 months, this whole thing in 2 months, we are going to be launching our Smart Therapy Websites program next month. Okay, more to come on that later. But if you look at all this and it makes sense to you, and you want to get it done, and you don't want it to take you 6 months, then watch for information on that, because that'll be launching next month. Okay, question time. Here we go. And I know there's already a number of questions in the chat box, so I'm going to start with what's going through there, and feel free to enter any questions that you have. I'm going to zip back up to the top of the chat box. I hope, if I can figure out how to use this thing. Lots of questions. You guys were talkative today. That's great. Let's see. Okay, so I'm getting past the can you hear me or not thing. Okay, so somebody had asked, are we going to see the websites you'll be talking about? Yeah, you did see those. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Okay, Charles says, I have a new site, so this is for me. Yes, good, Charles. Oh, was I calling it backslash? Was I calling slash backslash? Whatever. It's like the divide sign. Ziggy. There you go. It's the divide sign. Somebody said, what is an acceptable bounce rate for a therapist website? I like to see the bounce rate in the 50s or very low 60s. Okay, Tracy? A lot of folks have high 60s, 70s. Some people even have 80% bounce rate. All right, so if you're in the 50s and low 60s, that's pretty good if you're getting a fair amount of traffic. Tracy also asked, what is performing well, or how many people views constitutes performing well? Well, that's really interesting. Performing well doesn't really, in my view, it doesn't have anything to do with the number of people there or necessarily the page views. Those are things that don't necessarily translate to clients. So one of the best indicators is how long they're staying on their site, and of course, how many people are filling out your contact form, how many people are getting on your list, how many people are calling you. Okay? How are people finding these blogs? Somebody asks. How are people finding these blogs? Well, they're typing in search terms. They're typing in something about, you know, fighting fairly, or financial disagreement in relationship, or whatever. They're typing in terms that they are struggling with in their life, and they come to a blog post in the search results, and then they get on the therapist's site, they start reading, they get on their list, and the rest of it is rockin'. Okay, what do you think of an infographic as a free report? What do I think of an infographic? Here's the issue with an infographic as a free report. In order to have them be interested in the infographic, you probably need to show it to them on the website so that they can get what the value is in the infographic. And if they've already seen it on the website, why are they going to opt in? Okay? So that's my concern with just using infographics. Free reports or videos that are behind an opt-in box tend to work better, unless you're thinking of implementing it in a way that I don't understand. Okay, so if you are, feel free to type something in. We can come back to that. What is a cheap software to keep a segmented email list on? That's a good question. There's all sorts of different things. There's Constant Contact. There's Aweber, which is a little more expensive. MailChimp is free, I think, up to a certain number of subscribers. There's all sorts of systems out there. If you're using WordPress, if you have a WordPress website, the autoresponder that I recommend now is called Wasija, which stands for What You Send Is Just Awesome. Terrible name, actually, Wasija, but it's basically free, and it's good. It's really easy to use. Okay. Anon 8161. When you mention the 200 people on the list level, does that matter how the percentage distribution of them is between former clients, really old items, or fresher lists? Yes, of course it does. Okay, so if you have really old lists that have been neglected and not nurtured, what's going to happen is you're going to get a lot of bounces when you send emails to them, because a lot of people change their emails all the time. Okay, and so you're going to get a lot of, it's different than a bounce, different than a website bounce, but basically it's not going to be deliverable. And so you're also going to get people who unsubscribe because they forget who you are. But it's not a problem. I mean, I started with a very old list that I had neglected for 4 years, and many of those people are still on my list. Some disappeared, that's okay. But you just keep going. You just keep going and growing. Okay, so that's that. Can you give examples of other offerings and lures besides reports? Nick. Yeah, Nick. Videos, that's a good one. Another thing that some people are doing, and I don't think it's as effective because it's too threatening, but some people can say, enter your information here for a free consult, or for a, well, I guess in different industries they do different things. They could do a drawing or something like that. But I mentioned videos, and so I think it's basically videos and reports. That's the best bet. Assessments are a form of report that works really well in our line of business, because, and you saw that on the Relationship Doc site. People are very interested in assessments. They're very interested in how they measure up. Do they have an issue or not? And that can build your list pretty quickly. And not only that, but then if you are wanting to follow up with people in an email sequence, you can talk about various aspects of the assessment. So it's kind of a good setup for that email sequence that you can create. Okay, we are pretty much at the end here. I don't see any other questions. If you have another question, we have only 2 minutes left. So if you have another question, feel free to type it in, and I will answer, and I'll stay on a little bit past if I need to, because there's more questions. But basically, I wanted to tell you all thank you very much for showing. Thanks so much for your questions and for the interaction. I appreciate it. It's great to know that you're out there and paying attention and asking good questions. And anyone who's in Colorado, I hope that you're surviving or cleaning up after the floods. I know we have huge problems here. I wanted to just let you all know, anyone who's still here, of boulderfloodrelief.org. If anyone is in the vicinity, even in Denver, if you can help out on the weekends, you can go to boulderfloodrelief.org and you could volunteer, sign up as a volunteer. There's tons of people still needing help in, getting things out of their basements and crawl spaces, and even housing. They're needing housing and all sorts of things. So that would be great. Somebody asked, what is your consulting rate? My consulting rate is $120 per hour. And as I mentioned, I do have that first half-hour free consult to talk about what you need and see if it even makes sense to hire me for more consulting or any other work. So that's the answer to that. But again, thanks everyone for showing up. Appreciate you all. And we are now at the top of the hour, and I'm going to shut down the broadcast. Okay, take care everyone.